Right, this is Breakfast Central on News Central. Now, we're still in Nigeria where the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has adopted and announced a minimum cutoff mark for 2021 admissions. Now, JAMB Registrar, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, disclosed the minimum cutoff marks adopted by tertiary institutions at the 2021 policy meeting that held in Abuja.
Now, according to the new arrangement, universities are not allowed to go below 120, while polytechnics and colleges of education are not allowed to go below 100 marks for admission. Now, this means that there will be no, so to speak, uniform cutoff marks for the 2021-2022 admissions sessions. Now, this has clearly raised eyebrows all around the country. And to discuss the implications of this move, we have joining us, that's Adbussalam Amoo, who is a publisher of Educeleb. Now, Adbussalam, morning, welcome to Breakfast Central. Why do you think this decision was made, and what exactly are its significance?
Well, let me correct the impression of the issue of the cutoff mark. There has never been a uniform cutoff mark since the establishment of JAMB. And we should notice that each university is empowered by law to determine its own cutoff mark. So what is being done now is just to re-emphasize that it's not entirely new, because by law, each university senate is empowered to admit students as it requires according to its set guidelines. Because even in the past, let's take the instance of the University of Lagos. The cutoff mark for University of Lagos has always been 200 from 1978. But for somebody studying a course like medicine, that person's cutoff mark would never be 200. It would be like between 240 and 300 or whatever, depending on the performance, general performance for that year and some other criteria set by the university. So there has never been a concept of uniform cutoff mark at all.
Right. Now, Adbussalam, some may argue that by this move, JAMB has given autonomy to universities to determine the fate of students. Do you agree with this assertion?
Well, it's not entirely, the universities are not entirely autonomous because they still depend on JAMB. They still depend on following, what JAMB is just there to do is to ensure that they follow the set rules that they've set within their systems. The existence of JAMB in the first place was to check admission racketeering and some other irregularities in the admission process. Universities have some autonomy, and this will not make any difference in that instance.
All right, Adbussalam. So with this move, do you see the post-UTME still necessary as it outlived its usefulness? If they're coming out with this decision by JAMB, so doesn't that really question its need in the first place now?
Well, the argument about post-UTME is coming into place was because of the lack of trust in the UTME in the first place. But in recent years, with some new regulations such as the NIN to check impersonation and some other things like that, we've seen a reduction in the number of universities that are offering post-UTME. More than 60% of universities no longer write post-UTME these days because of the new trust they've had in JAMB. And it has been attested by their authorities based on that they don't need any post-UTME because they believe that JAMB had already regulated the candidates to ensure that it's whatever they wrote is what they are being scored on, and that's what they are presenting to the universities. So we don't really need the post-UTME. Even some would argue that we don't even need JAMB anymore. We don't really need JAMB in the first place, which is also a valid argument. But we don't. But because of the system we are running, we still have to continue writing the UTME every year.
All right. Now, Adbussalam, when we're looking at the educational sector, we have a lot of employers who have come out to complain about the kind of graduates we turn out every year, talking about half-baked and talking about the quality of education they get in these different institutions. What do you think can be done? Right now we have JAMB, who is trying to make sure there's a sieve to get the good ones into universities. But when these good ones enter higher institutions, getting them jobs is a big issue.
Well, regarding that, the system has created various avenues to get people employed on their own. When they do the NYS, in their university days, they have the GST, the General Studies compulsory course in entrepreneurship. At NYSC, there is the SLIDE and some other programs like that. because the government already understands that it cannot provide for everybody. And in that instance, it considers entrepreneurship as an alternative. But to make graduates employable, we need to create a system where the system itself is able to get them employed. When you don't have constant electricity, we don't have some other facilities in place. There are no companies that want to keep people, even if they are qualified, because it's not a case of people not being qualified. It's a case of the availability of spaces for them to get jobs to work. So the system itself is not made to work based on, we consider the funding, majorly the funding. We can say that the policy, they have a lot of policies on paper, but it's a matter of funding, which is even affecting the university system or the higher education system entirely at the moment.
Well, thank you so much, Adbussalam Amoo, publisher, Educeleb, right here on Breakfast Central, for giving us your time. I'm sure there'll be lots to talk about this in terms of the wider scale and the attractiveness of these universities themselves, even after the JAMB. But thank you so much once again, Adbussalam, for your time on Breakfast.